Josh Allen, the game changer, and the Buffalo Bills absolutely destroyed the Cowboys 31-10. The Cowboys had clinched a spot in the playoff right before kickoff. What did you make of that game? What can we take from it? Does it say more about the Bills or the Cowboys, that scoreline?
Probably says more about the Bills. I said with Nat last week that, when you looked at the 11 teams with winning records in the AFC, the Bills were in the seedings 11th among those teams for the playoffs, but they were probably the team that other teams would least like to play. Probably the best of those 7 and 6 teams. We had a letter in the Passion mailbag about this very subject from Garth Owen Thomas. I would I would be on Cam's side a little more if Cam could prove that he was a game-changing quarterback more. I mean,
He was in
how many winning
college.
seasons? How many winning seasons did they have in Carolina when he was there? Not many. They had one great season where he was justifiably the league MVP and they went to the Super Bowl. But it was more that the team sort of had to adjust to him. And yes, he's a playmaker, but as we've seen historically through the NFL, and the process may be changing a bit, but so-called game changers, if we're talking about the dual threat, running and passing kind of thing, are not as effective long term as quote unquote game managers, because you have to be able to do the simple things consistently well in order to win, especially against good defenses. Josh Allen was a great factor, but more important in that game, I mean, Allen only threw 15 passes. Now they had the big lead, so he didn't have to pass, so they ran more than they would. But they had, and I wrote notes here, they had 266 yards rushing, and they had 35 minutes of possession, which is part cause, part effect. But you also had Baltimore with 251 yards rushing and Lamar getting 99 of those. So you could make that case again. But the Rams, you had Kyron Williams getting 152 yards rushing, but Matt Stafford throwing touchdown passes. It's a combination. And when you looked at, for example, Arizona ran very well against San Francisco. The announcers failed to mention in at least when I heard them on Red Zone, that San Francisco didn't have either of their starting defensive tackles. So if I was Arizona, I would have just run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, told Kyler to cool down and that. But I think that was it was a reflection of that. And the second thing is we abuse the term game managers. I mean, in one sense, Peyton Manning or Tom Brady were game managers because they ran
Cam
an
Newton said the
offense
same. Cam Newton said the same.
designed to help them play. They ran Peyton's offense basically in
Right.
Indiana, and everyone knew what it was. And Peyton was a game changer as well. So Brady could run almost any kind of offense. The Patriots, and this is part of the Brady versus Belichick argument. In his first years, the Patriots were a run first defensive team with the best defense or second best or third best defense in the league, and they won their titles. And then they got Randy Moss and they became a deep passing offense, and Brady sort of bloomed at that point. And then they had this fallow period where they were dink and dunk with 2 tight ends and a lot of slot receivers. And then they went back to dominance, and by then they were Brady's team, not Josh McDaniels. But it's that kind of mix, and I think I don't think that Cam's put his finger on the problem around the league. I don't think we lack for game-changing quarterbacks, but Patrick Mahomes, they function within a system. Patrick Mahomes is the best game-changing quarterback we have in the league, and he's incredibly frustrated because he doesn't have a deep threat like Tyreek Hill. Jason Kelce's a step slower than he was 2 years ago, and he doesn't have a dependable receiver anywhere other than Kelce. So I don't know. Cam could have gone into the playoffs with the Patriots if he'd made 1 or 2 plays, game-changing plays, like 4th down against Seattle early in the season when he got stopped trying to run the ball in, which was not his fault because it was a badly designed call and a badly designed play to fool Seattle. But there you
go. Well, there's obviously lots to talk about Brock Purdy, lots of even MVP talk. I cannot have another discussion about Brock Purdy, whether he's elite or not. Spoiler alert, he is not. He's
But
been
yeah,
an excellent
Cameron.
game manager.
Well, he's better than I mean, he's better than that definition of a game manager because he makes plays and we can see him make plays. He did last night with his feet and kept plays alive, threw a couple of really good balls downfield. I mean, people there's a lot of air yards in his game. People kind of think he's throwing dinky passes to crossing receivers all the time, and he's not. He's putting balls in on target. Now he would not be anywhere near as good with probably 30 or 28 of the 32 teams in the NFL. He's in a system that he's perfect for, and credit to them for recognizing it. But Garth, not, let's see if I can find this one. Cameron Walker in the Passion mailbag said, "Is Purdy the best Mister Irrelevant
I
in
mean,
football history?" And I think, yeah, what do you think?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, I always had a soft spot for Mike Green of the Chicago Bears from the early to mid 2000s, but
Yeah, but
you'd have
you're a
to
Bears fan.
exactly. So I remember Mike Green and a guy who would make plays and really solid addition. Felt great value at that pick, but he's not Brock Purdy level in what he's getting done. Absolutely not. Brock Purdy
Yeah,
is by
Purdy.
far the best.
Yeah, he'll need another year. Well, not he'll need another year or two, I think. Suck up is generally the guy, who people point to as being because he's had a long career as a
Yeah.
successful kicker. Um, my favorite was I because I love it because it's a trick question. Jack McKinnon, who played for the Chargers in the well, almost throughout the whole AFL. I think he came in the second year and 1 year with Oakland at the end. But he was drafted last by Philadelphia, but signed with the Chargers, and
Uh
he was a tight end stroke fullback out of Colgate, much like Marv Hubbard. And Marv Hubbard was drafted 200. He was drafted 280th, and Marv Hubbard was drafted 277th, but he wasn't Mr. Irrelevant. And what was the other guy? Mark Van Egan at the Raiders. They were all from Colgate. So the Colgate used to produce these big fullback types, and he was very good. There was a guy called Bill Fisher who went to 3 Pro Bowls with the Cards in the early '50s, a guard. And there was, do you remember Jim Finn? He would be
yeah.
in your, yeah, Jim Finn at Indy was Mr. Irrelevant. He was a big fullback as well, but not as good
I
as Jack McKinnon.
I love the fact it did not take you long to get to the Ivy League players.